Now, we all go to great lengths to make sure that our Microsoft 365 is protected with multi-factor authentication. But what about when we log onto our computers? Most people are still logging on using a username and password. Is there another way? You bet there is, and it's called Windows Hello for Business, and that is the topic for today's video. But before we start, just a quick intro. My name is Jonathan Edwards, also known as the Bearded 365 Guy. Now, I help businesses all over the world with their Microsoft 365. You can find more information bearded365guy.com. Now, Windows Hello is a feature that comes with all Windows 10 and Windows 11 devices. Even if you've got a personal computer at home running Windows 10 or Windows 11, the chances are you could be using Windows Hello. But of course, there is a business version and it's more feature-rich, and that's called Windows Hello for Business. Where did Microsoft get these names? With Windows Hello for Business, instead of logging onto your computer with a username and a password, you can log onto your computer with a PIN, some biometrics like a fingerprint or facial recognition, or a hardware security token. Now, you might be thinking, what's the point in all this? Now, when it comes to technology, we're heading into a new direction. And the direction is going to be that we're going to be passwordless. Us humans, we're no good at remembering passwords, are we? Well, in future, we're not going to need to, because we'll be able to log on to our computers and our cloud services without a password. And secondly, using Windows Hello for Business is a much more secure way of logging onto your computer. When you use a username and password, that password is actually transmitted over the internet to get authenticated from Microsoft. This doesn't happen with a PIN or biometric. Those details never leave your computer. In simple terms, when you log onto your computer and use your PIN or your biometric, it enables a kind of key on your computer, and that key is used to unlock, like a padlock, at Microsoft 365. Now, when it comes to configuring Windows Hello for Business, for your business, you've got three options. Firstly, Windows Hello for Business is actually enabled by default on every Microsoft 365 tenant, so there's a good chance that you and your team could be using it already. Do you want me to show you what I mean? Let's have a look. Okay, so I've got a Windows 11 virtual machine in front of me. Shall we pretend that this is a new laptop or a new desktop computer, and we've taken it out of the box and we've connected it to the internet? So the first thing Microsoft wants us to do is enter our work Microsoft 365 email address. So I'll enter that now. So this is just a test tenancy that I use for these videos. Then I'll click on Next. And then I'll enter my Microsoft 365 password. And then click on Sign In. Okay, the PC is just setting up now. And there you go. Straight away, it has asked us to set up Windows Hello. We've not made any configuration for Windows Hello for Business in the tenancy. It's just because that feature is enabled by default on all Microsoft 365 tenants. Now, you might be wondering why I'm making a video about Windows Hello for Business if it's already enabled for your Microsoft 365 tenant. Well, as I said earlier, you've got three options for configuring Windows Hello for Business. The first option isn't really an option. It's just enabled by default. What happens if you want to change some of the security settings? You can't. So that leads me onto option number 2. You can configure Windows Hello for Business for everyone in your tenant. Plus, you can define some extra security settings. Do you want to see? Let's have a look. So I'm now logged into the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, and I've logged in as a global admin. Now, this is just a test tenancy that we use for these videos. But what I'm going to do is go down to Show All, and I'm going to scroll down to Admin Centers and then Endpoint Manager. Okay, once I'm in Endpoint Manager, we're going to go to Devices, and then underneath Device Onboarding here, we're going to click on Enrollment. And then we've got a lot of enrollment options. And at the bottom, you can see Windows Hello for Business. And when we click on that, we get a little pop out here. Now, as we know already, Windows Hello for Business is enabled in every Microsoft 365 tenancy. But here, we've got a couple more options. And at the moment, these are both set at not configured. So start with the top one, configure Windows Hello for Business. We can change the drop down here. We can set it to disabled, or what we can do is enable it from here. And then we get a lot more options. So the first option is use a TPM chip. Now a TPM chip does make Windows Hello for Business that much more secure. Some older PCs might not have a TPM chip and you might run into some problems. But it's my advice to set this to required. And then we get a few options about the quality of the pin. So we've got a minimum pin length, maximum pin length, whether we want to allow lowercase letters, so that is non-numerical characters in our pin, uppercase letters, and also special characters. Now it might be tempting here to set these as being quite strict. So we might set these as having a minimum pin length of 10 characters. Maybe allowing lowercase, uppercase, and special characters. But my advice here is to keep it simple. This is not a password, and I think when we come to configure this, we're treating it like passwords. If we set these pin numbers to be too complex, what it's going to do is means that the user will quickly forget them, and it's going to cause a problem. And they'll start doing behavior like writing the pin number on post-it notes and things like that. Remember, this pin stays with the device. It is not a password. It's something different. So what I do for these is I leave these exactly how they are at the moment. Minimum pin length 6, maximum 127, and I don't allow these characters in here. When it comes to pin expiration, again, I leave that as never. I don't want that to expire. And the pin history, again, I set for no. So that is if we're changing pins, it will remember the last few pin numbers that we've had. Do we want to allow biometric? Absolutely. That's kind of webcams and fingerprints and things like that. And then we want to allow anti-spoofing when available. Do we want to allow phone sign-in? Yes, we do. We want to enable also enhanced sign-in security with capable hardware. And then the last section here is, do we want security keys? That's one of these YubiKeys that I've mentioned earlier. So I'm happy to also enable that. We can then simply click on Save. So that in a nutshell is how to do the basic settings of Windows Hello for Business. So with option 2, we've taken things a bit further. We've chosen some default security settings. But what happens if this still isn't enough for your organization? Perhaps you want to take things a little bit further. Perhaps you want the executive team, for example, to have stricter pins. Well, you can't do that with option 1 or option 2. But you can do it with option 3. Now, with option 3, we're going to be using Microsoft Intune. And I'm going to show you how. Okay, before I moved on to the more advanced settings, there's a couple of things that I need to point out. Before we can configure Windows Hello for Business with the advanced settings, we need to kind of undo what we did in the previous section. So where it says here, configured Windows Hello for Business, we need to change that back to not configured, okay? Because they can't both coexist. So once we've done that, click on Save, and that will go back to there. Also, when it comes to anything like this, my recommendation is to always use groups, okay? So what I've done for this video, go to all groups. You can see I've got a Windows Hello for Business Windows 11 group. It's an assigned group. In real life, it would be a dynamic group. So this is where we group all the computers together that we want this policy to run against. So that's how I would advise you to do it in real life. Once you've got those in place, if we just come out of here, and we're going to go back to Endpoint Manager. And once that launches, we're going to go to Devices here. And then we're going to go to Configuration. So what we're going to do now is start building some configuration policies for Windows Hello for Business. I'll go to Create, and I'll go to New Policy. The platform is Windows 10 or later. The profile type is going to be the Settings Catalog, and then we'll click on Create. And then we'll give this a name. So I'll put a name in here. I'll call this Windows Hello for Business Policy, and I'll click on Next. We'll then click on Add Settings. You can see that these categories pop out here. So if I just scroll to the bottom, you can see I've got a Windows Hello for Business. If I left click on there, I get lots of settings here that I can add to my configuration policy. So what I'll do now, I'll just work my way through these and I will add what I need. Okay, that's great. And once I've finished, I can click on this cross. And here we are. I've got the bones of my policy. So some of these settings will look very familiar to you. Others won't, but all will become clear later in this video. So first one, user security key. We want to enable that. That's a hardware token. We're going to leave these for now, but we'll come back. If you remember the facial features and anti-spoofing, we'll set that to true. This one as well, we'll keep this as enabled. Biometrics, yes. Pin recovery, we want to be set to true. Expiration, do we want the pin to expire? If it's 0, it means it won't. Scroll down a little bit more. The lowercase letters, we want to be blocked. Maximum pin length, 127, that's okay. We could probably reduce that if we wanted. Minimum pin length, I'm going to choose as 6. Pin history, again, we're going to turn that off. 0 means it's turned off. This is requiring a TPN chip, so it's named slightly differently from before. We want to click that to true. Do not use special characters. Uppercase letters, again, we want to block them. So we've already got a similar policy now, but we've been able to be a bit more granular when I click on next. Okay, it wants me to enter these now, so I'm just going to get rid of these actually for now, and we'll come back to those later. So I'm okay with that. Scope tags, assignments, and this is where we add it to our groupings. Okay, so what I can do now is I can add this to certain groups, and I will be adding this to my Windows 11 computers. Click on select, click on next, and click on create, and that policy, if I refresh, is there. Okay, so far we've looked at the admin side of things. You've got to choose which option you want to go with for your Windows Hello for Business deployment. What we haven't done is looked at this from a user experience point of view. So that's what we're going to do now. Now, obviously, if you've got a new laptop, you connect it to the internet and it will ask you to set up Windows Hello for Business. But what about the users who already have existing devices? What options do they have? Let's have a look inside the Windows 11 PC right now. Okay, I'm on a Windows 11 computer. This Windows 11 computer, we've got a PIN number in place. We put that PIN in when we set it up. Now, how can I manage this as a user? Well, if I go to the Start button there, right-click and go to Settings, and then go to Accounts, and then go to Sign-in Options. Okay, we've got a few options. We've got Facial Recognition, Windows Hello, Fingerprint, and PIN. So the first thing I'm going to do, if I go to the PIN here, and if I want to change my PIN, so if I put in my existing PIN at the moment, now if I put in a new PIN, now from this one, the minimum PIN was actually 4 characters. So if I just put in 2 characters here for my new PIN and click on OK, it said that it doesn't meet the complexity requirements. So that's all based on the policy that we created. I'll just cancel out of that because I don't want to reset my PIN. I haven't got a fingerprint device here. I have got a webcam though that is capable of Windows Hello. So as a user, I can go in and I can click on Setup, click on Get Started, put in my PIN number. Okay, hello. So that's going to set up this now. Okay, so my webcam has now set up facial recognition for Windows Hello. So I can do everything from within Windows. Now we're making really good progress with our Windows Hello for Business deployment. But there's one feature that I absolutely love, and I don't see too many organizations using it. It's called multi-factor unlock. With this feature, you have to enter 2 factors of authentication to log on or unlock your PC. This is a great security feature. If you think about Windows Hello for Business, you might have a PIN number to log onto your computer, but that's not much good if someone knows what your PIN is. Imagine instead if to unlock your computer, you had to use facial recognition and then also your PIN number, meaning it's 2-factor. We can do that with this feature, and I'm going to show you how. Let's go. So we're going to look at a really cool feature now called multi-factor unlock, which is essentially 2-factor authentication to log on and to unlock your device. So how does this work? Well, there is a first unlock factor, there's a second unlock factor using these credential providers. We've got PIN, fingerprint, facial recognition, or even trusted signals. This is quite advanced, but you've got an example here about network location. So it could be that your device has a certain IP address or is in a certain location. It could be that you've paired a phone up to this, your iPhone, and when your phone moves out of proximity or within proximity, that is a trusted signal, and that can act as a factor of authentication. We're not going to look at trusted signals today. We're going to look at a PIN and facial recognition. So how do we go about that? Well, if I just scroll down a little bit here, I've got some GUIDs. So I've got a PIN and I've got facial recognition. I've got some codes here. So how do we use these? Well, back to Endpoint Manager, back to Devices, and back to Configuration. Now, if I just dig out that configuration that I made earlier, Windows Hello for Business Policy, and open that up, and just scroll down here, and click on Edit at the bottom. And you can see here's all the settings I made earlier. Now, you might remember there was a couple of settings that I had to remove because it wouldn't save. So if I scroll down to the bottom again, go Windows 11 for Business, and then I'll dig those out now. And it's called Group A and Group B. Once I've got those, I can go back there, and I've got them in here. So basically, what I'm doing with these GUIDs is dumping them in here. Okay, so back to this page here. We'll go facial recognition, and we'll go PIN. So I'll put that in Group A. That's the facial recognition. And then I'll get the PIN number. So what we're basically saying is to unlock this PC, I need a successful face recognition and also the PIN number. Okay, so that's different. It's going to be very difficult for someone to crack. We'll click on Review and Save, and click on Save there. Now, before I show you this, I want to give you a little bit more. If you're a fan of things like Cyber Essentials in the UK, this could be really helpful to configure your device to auto-lock after a certain length of time. You can do that right within Microsoft 365. Again, go to Devices, go to Configuration. We'll create a new policy, okay? Platform, Windows 10 and later, Settings Catalog, click on Create. We'll give this a name. Auto Screen Lock, click on Next. Add Settings. Okay, we've got these categories up again, so let's scroll down to something called Device Lock. Click on here, click on the drop down here, Max Inactivity Time Device Lock. That sounds good. So click on that, enable it, and then we can just choose the time. So 0 means no timeout, and you've got to choose in minutes. Now, this is up to you. We've got a policy within our business, and it's just 1 minute only. So after a minute away from the desk, the PC locks, and we need multi-factor unlock to unlock it. That's security. It can get a bit annoying sometimes. You might be at your desk, but you might not be on your computer, and suddenly your screen locks. But I don't recommend that you set anything big here. So let's go with 2 minutes. Click on Next. Scope tags. Click on Assignments again. We'll add the group we need from earlier. Put that in there. Click Select. Click Next. Review and Create. So what we've got now, refresh there. What we've got now, we've got an auto screen lock and we've got multi-factor unlock enabled. So I can tell you what you're asking. How does this multi-factor unlock actually work? Okay, I've got my screen here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to manually lock the computer. What it will do to start with, you'll see at the top of the screen. You can see the face there. Look at the top of the screen. What it's doing, it's looking for my face. It's seen my face. It's now saying, welcome back. Dismiss the lock screen. But your organization needs more. It needs a PIN. Put the PIN in. And I'm back into the computer. So that's multi-factor unlock. And I'm sure you agree, it's a great security feature. Now, as we come to the end of this video, I just wanted to answer a couple of common questions that I get. Firstly, a lot of people say, well, surely a PIN number isn't more secure than a password. The key thing is here that the PIN number is tied to your device. It never leaves your device. That's not the same with a password. When you log on with that password transmits to Microsoft 365. Plus, that PIN number is specific to that device. That means the hacker would need your PIN number and that specific device. That PIN number doesn't carry to other devices. The second question that I often get asked is about the biometrics. So yes, if you bought a brand new laptop, it will probably have a webcam that works with Windows Hello for Business. It might even have a fingerprint reader. But what happens if your business uses mainly desktop PCs? Well, the answer is simply buy a webcam for that PC. If you go on Amazon or something like that, it's not every webcam. You've got to make sure that it's compatible with the Windows Hello for Business. I personally love biometrics to log onto a computer. I think it's a really convenient way for users to securely log onto a computer without the hassle of remembering passwords. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.